Ask that everybody turn off their cell phones during the meeting. And please join me in observing a moment of silence. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Reed. Here. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Atchison.
Here. Okay. I can have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda is approved. Okay. First presentation by Ms. Guzzo for the Calhoun County Senior Services Update.
Good evening. It's good to be here. My name is Helen Guzzo, and I work for Calhoun County Senior Services, and I'm here to give a report on how we've used Calhoun County tax dollars. If someone owns a $50,000 house, they pay about $33 a year in senior millage. It raises almost $2.6 million, and we have spent it helping seniors around the county. So we define seniors as people who are 60 and over, and I passed out to everyone and to all of you my card. So if you know a senior who's in need of any of these services, we do information and referral. But we have 21 different programs that are run by 11 nonprofit and government organizations. Our Hearing and Vision program is run by the Calhoun County Health Department. So we have a wait list for the minor home repair. We just gave them more dollars. They provide up to $3,500 worth of health and safety related repairs to seniors' homes. So that is a high demand, very impactful program. We also do Meals on Wheels. 300 people around the county every day get meals delivered. The Forks Senior Center, we fund about 35% of their operating dollars at the county building here. They have 350 members. A lot of health and wellness exercise programs happen there with the support of Senior Millage. So I just want everyone to know about what we do. All of our funding is approved by the Board of Commissioners, but it's recommended to the Board of Commissioners by the Senior Millage Allocation Committee. I want to recognize Tom Hunsdorfer back here, who is an Albion representative on the Senior Millage Allocation Committee. So on this annual report, it's got the SMAC members that make our decisions. It's got our 3-person staff, and Rhonda Staley just retired after 15 years of service to the county. But if you look in the inside, it gives you a report of where and how we assisted 6,448 seniors in Calhoun County with $2.675 million in the 21 different programs that were. And if you look at the map, it shows where all the seniors lived. So in Albion, 789 seniors received some sort of program help, assistance from Senior Millage. And 350 of those were seniors who were involved at the Forks Senior Center. But the other folks are people that either received benefits counseling or received senior minor home repair or Meals on Wheels or a vision or hearing assistance through one of our programs. So it goes through and shows you that we've served an even number distributed by age. We serve half of our programs are income tested for 200 people who are 200% of poverty or below. So it shows you for the 1-person and 2-person down here. And then on the back, we just have highlights of the different programs. In April 4th, we did every year, we do a senior fair at the Marshall Middle School. And right now, we're looking for centenarians. We've identified 37 centenarians, so people who are 100 years and over, and we invite them to Schuler's for a birthday party. So we do a lot of special events. We have Calhoun County Day or Senior Day at the Calhoun County Fair, where we have about 450 seniors that come and play bingo and have dinner or have lunch. It's a way to get some of our seniors who are in adult foster care or nursing facilities out socializing in the community. Seniors struggle with loneliness and ways to stay attached, and that's a lot of the programming that Senior Millage supports, try to reconnect people offer. So I appreciate your time and all your service. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is a proclamation recognizing the week of 12 May 2019 as Public Safety Week in Albion. Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day in the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. It was established by a joint resolution of Congress in 1962. National Police Week pays special recognitions to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. And whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including approximately 17,000 full-time uniformed police officers in Michigan, and whereas members of law enforcement deserve the appreciation and respect of the people of Albion, Michigan, for the merit, dignity, bravery, and reliability they exhibit each and every day. We must also honor the sacrifices made by families of police officers, as each day they must face constant fear as their loved one works to protect us. And whereas in 2018 alone, 163 law enforcement officers were killed and many, many more assaulted in the line of duty across the country. The names of those dedicated public servants who made the ultimate sacrifice are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. And whereas Michigan's fallen officers will never be forgotten, nor will their service to their respective communities. By choosing to commit themselves to law enforcement, these brave individuals answered the call for service and willingly put their lives in jeopardy. We commend them for recognizing service as a noble career and protecting the public safety. And also all of those who are serving without incident to date. And whereas the City of Albion and all Michigan citizens have turned to members of law enforcement for assistance and support in times of distress, whether they are coping with a personal crisis or struggling through civil disorder or natural disaster. Our communities rely on these courageous individuals when it is difficult to stand on our own, and we are indebted to the unwavering public service of our local and state police. We are indeed fortunate and grateful for the contributions of law enforcement officers to the people of this state. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of this City Council declare the week of 12 May 2019 as Public Safety Week in the City of Albion, Michigan. We publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community, as well as those of our state and nation, and honor police who place their lives on the line for the safety and security of their communities. Signed, I have hereunto set my hand and cause this to be affixed the official seal of Albion, Michigan on the 6th day of May 2019. Well deserved. Okay. Public comments. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to make public comments on the agenda items. Ask everybody to give each one their attention.
Hello, my name is Jess Roberts. I live at 915 South Superior Street, and I'm the director of Albion's Big Read. And I just wanted to come and say thank you for all of your support over the last 5 years. And tonight you'll be voting on whether to approve our application to be in the amazing and transformed Holland Park, thanks to Councilmember Len Reed. So I just want to say thank you for all the ways that you've supported us, and we look forward to another good year.
Thank you. Are there more public comments on the agenda items tonight? Okay. Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn and go into closed session, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Seconded? Okay. Moved and seconded. This is The city attorney requests a closed session under the Open Meeting Act to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, hearing none, we will adjourn and go into closed session. back to order. Ms. Domingue, would you call the roll again? I'm sure we have everybody here, but.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Reed. Brown.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
And Mayor Atchison.
Here. Okay, consent calendar. We have 4 items on the consent calendar. Approval of study session minutes from April 29th. Assembly permit for the Big Read kickoff event in Holland Park. Approval for the American Legion Poppy Days campaign on the 16th, 17th, and 18th of May. And approval for street closure for the Red, White, and Blue Cruising Car Show on Friday, June 28th. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, please?
So moved.
Is there any discussion, questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, consent calendar is approved. Okay. First item for individual discussion is request approval of the conflict of interest waiver. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay. All right. This is, wrong one. Looking for the resolution to read it. Unless you want to paraphrase it for the,
So,
Yeah.
just as an overview for the council, one of the sub-political bodies of the city has requested our office's review of certain materials, and because of the potential conflict of interest, we prepared a conflict of interest waiver for both the city and the sub-political body, so that both sides are advised of a potential conflict and that both sides are agreeing to waive that conflict.
is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Councilmember Williamson? Did it look like there was a question on your expression, or did I misinterpret?
I think you misinterpreted.
Okay. Interest waiver, say aye. Okay. No problem. Would you read the roll, please?
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Reed. No. No. Brown.
Yes.
Lawler.
Yes.
Spicer.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison.
Yes. It's approved. Next item is to discuss and approve prioritize long and short-term council goals and initiatives. There is a list of those contained in the agenda packet. So if someone would like to move what they think is the most important, go ahead, Councilmember Lawler.
I move that the first thing that we take a look at is hiring a city manager.
All right, discussion. Okay. Seeing no discussion, this would be voting this as the number one priority for short-term goals, because this would be within the next 6 months. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we picked the number one short-term goal. Okay. Would care to make another motion for the next either long-term or short-term goal? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. Short term is for council to make a decision regarding rental certification.
Support.
Is there any discussion? I just have one question, whether we have answers to what the number of properties are that are likely not to pass and people that will get displaced and where they'll go. And if anybody's looked at what the impact is on overall rents and if that's going to be arduous for the residents. Do we have that information?
Are you looking at me?
or you're on the subcommittee, so if you do, yes.
Yes, let me just say, we were waiting on Director Tracy to get back with a meeting date. He had some he was seeking some additional information that he had not yet had at our last meeting. And so I just spoke with him today. He does have it, and he does plan to set a meeting with the rental certification committee for early next week. So I assume by the next meeting of council, we will have answers.
All right, certainly within this year. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Rental certification.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, that's the second. Let me find it on the list. Okay. Is anyone, council member?
I move to establish a comprehensive infrastructure plan to be the third priority on council's list.
Be long-term, but,
Sure, yeah.
okay. Is there a second for that?
Long-term.
Second.
Okay. Discussion?
Making it 3 on the long term, or number 1?
One on the long-term. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of developing a comprehensive infrastructure management program, say aye. Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay. Councilmember Williamson.
I move to make establish our recreation program as a short-term, that can be a short-term project, and it needs to be on the short-term list.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion? Okay, this would be the third short-term goal. This is established. I'm looking at number 7. Is that what you're looking at, Councilmember Williamson? If you're looking at the same list.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that's the third. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. Can I basically have a description for short term? Are we talking 1 year, 6 months, or 2 years? What are we talking for?
I would say
short-term?
within 2019.
Within
We should be,
2019?
right,
Okay, so the next
6 months.
6 or 8 months, okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Reed.
Grocery store.
Is it seconded?
Second?
All those in favor? I'm sorry, I apologize. Discussion. This is going to be long-term, but
I was
Brown?
trying to ask if it was if you were looking for a short-term or long-term.
Not too long. I think we need a grocery store because there are seniors that are really having problems purchasing because the prices here are too high. And some of them might take different places to do their shopping. It would be good if we had a store that was a store for seniors here now.
I have a question.
Councilmember
Have you
Williamson.
ever had EDC come forward and give a kind of a primer on what it takes to get a business or a retail chain here and what that involves, and maybe some of the market research around? Because I'm assuming, as long as I've been around at Albion, which is, I guess, not long compared to some, but this has always been an issue, not having a grocery or another alternative. And I'm assuming there's some reasons for that, and I would like, if we're gonna put this on as as an agenda item, I would like the data and the research around why we haven't been able to attain that.
Okay, yeah, and to answer your question, yes, she has, but I'm sure she can provide it again.
Yeah.
Councilmember Spicer.
I think Councilmember Brown. Okay.
Well, I'm just,
I know, it's okay, I don't mind.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to the grocery store issue that the EDC director, Caprice, did speak with council a couple of times since I've been seated, and with regard to a grocery store, and the one resounding comment was that because of
Albion's population and because of our economic status and things like that, no one was interested, not no one, but several grocery stores weren't interested. I just want to encourage her or whomever will be exploring this to not only look at major chains of grocery stores, because I know she indicated that she had talked to Save-A-Lot and maybe even Aldi's, but, you know, I mean, I'm a firm believer you don't know unless you ask, so perhaps she could explore beyond those couple, three grocery stores as we've mentioned, because as I stated when we were at our prioritizing session last week, I'm in Spring Arbor a lot, and I know that they have a grocery store called Hutchins, and I have no idea what that is, you know, or who owns it or how it came to be, but perhaps that's something we can look at, something that's unknown, or I want to just explore beyond what we've already looked at, is my comment. Thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
I forgot.
Okay. All right. So this.
Oh, I know. Sorry. It came to me. What I was going to say is making it a goal to look into a grocery store. I think it gives direction and perspective on what the council has identified, and for whoever is going to take on this task, I'm thinking the EDC director, at least making this a goal, make it clear that that is something council has identified as a want and need in Albion. So I didn't want like the reasons that it hasn't happened in the years before to be a reason for us not identifying it as a goal now. So thank you.
I think if we're gonna continue to grow, we need another grocery store.
Yeah. I think if this gets voted, and it seems the consensus is that it's going to make it one of the top priorities, it's going to have to be a long-term goal. I don't see it physically possible of having a grocery store here in the next 6 to 8 months. So,
Maybe a commitment.
but putting something in place, that would definitely be part of a long-term goal, or definitely part of the process. I just, to have a grocery store, I don't know. I don't think that's possible, but Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So I just want to say that, you know, it may take time. We're not sure. I know at our last meeting, we talked about having the EDC director come before council and explain to us the efforts that have gone into trying to recruit a grocery store here in the community. Once that happens, I think if we identify a very aggressive, rigorous plan to recruit a grocery store here in Albion, that's something we could do by the end of 2019. So,
I agree.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, so this is to make getting a second grocery store the fourth short-term priority. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Okay. I don't think it's realistic, so. Okay, next. Councilman Brown.
Yes, go ahead.
okay. So I want to definitely prioritize the workforce development piece, and I as we discussed before, I know our role may not be to implement that program, but what we can do is create an ad hoc committee that is representative of our community, so we can get the community's input, and they can tell us what the barriers are that need to be addressed and overcome. So with the potential of having jobs come into the community, I think it's about the barriers and get the ball rolling on a workforce development program. So I think that's something that can happen fairly quickly. I know we've already identified 4, but I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Okay. So, is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
So does that mean we currently have 5 short-term goals?
Well,
It sounds like we have
I
5-ish short-term
I
goals.
think workforce development, again, is one of those things that's going to take a while. That's certainly, like an initial first step, or, but the overall thing is going to be a ongoing, long-term goal.
How many long-term goals do we have?
Uh,
Okay.
We have 2. One is infrastructure, and now if you're amenable to have that classified as a long-term goal, that would be 2.
Well, I was thinking short-term because the ask is to get the ad hoc committee together that's representative of the community. It's just that simple, seeing who's interested in being a part of a discussion group to identify barriers. So I think that's something that can be, my ask was very specific. I do recognize that the actual workforce development plan will be long-term, but the specific ask that I just identified is a very short-term project. Thanks.
Councilmember Williamson.
I agree, especially since we're on such a short timeline with the potential to have a big project. Project Tiger was something that we had to call a special meeting for, and it sounds very urgent. I think it would be smart for us to put the workforce development piece on a short-term plan. I also would like to add it, if I could, to the long-term objectives of the council, because I think it's something we're always going to have to be working on. It's kind of the chicken and the egg conversation. So we need to always be developing a good workforce in our community and supporting those who are doing that. We also probably need to move on that a little quickly too here in the interim if we are hopeful that something positive will play out with the PDC.
So I think we voted on that, and that was approved, correct?
It was on the short term. Do we
Yeah.
need to vote again to put it on the long term?
Okay.
So I move to put workforce development on the long term.
A second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. All right. Councilmember Williamson, so I am first.
I move to add senior housing development to our long-term goals plan. There's a group meeting in this community pretty regularly trying to figure out how we're going to address the long-term needs of seniors who are going to need housing that is stable for them to live in this community. And it would be a bad idea not to include this on our long-term plan.
Councilmember Spicer?
Thank you. Just to add to that, is it possible with the senior housing development group, can the council get an update as to their status and their process or procedure, what their plans are, so that, we'll know how to proceed when we get to that?
How about this? Councilmember Williams made a motion. We get a second. If it goes on the list, then certainly we'll do all of those things.
Okay.
So, does anyone wish to second? You made a motion to put
Senior housing.
as a long-term goal.
I have a friendly amendment if Councilmember Williamson doesn't mind. I would like to see senior/affordable housing as a long-term
Perfect.
goal. So-
Yes.
And we're going to figure out how to pay for all this.
But
Okay?
it's a long-term, it's a need that needs to be addressed, and we need to think about how to address it.
Okay. Is it seconded?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So that would be the fourth, I believe. Actually, I believe that's the third long-term goal.
It is.
Okay. Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. I think that we did mention infrastructure as a long-term goal. However, I know that we prioritize, and we are preparing for the budget in a few months, and the street budget is always something that we address. I know for 2020, we've allocated funds, and street repair for First, Second, Third Street, am I correct? Okay. In our budget preparations for 2021, I'd like to see East Broadwell Street be considered for repair, along with, depending on the cost, West Broadwell, because it is just as bad. So my recommendations is to look at East and West Broadwell for street repair.
Is there a second for that?
I think you should look at Hartwell.
Second.
Because it's there with first, second, and third.
All right, so it's moved and seconded for East and West Broadwell discussion. Councilmember Reed, you were saying?
I was saying that you're doing first, second, and third. Hartwell is right there with that.
And why?
First, second, and third, and it is terrible.
Okay. So one of the comments that was made when we had our goal setting was that the city manager should be on board before any comprehensive plan. And the timing on that is most likely going to be August of this year, I'm guessing, if it goes along about the same time as last time. And I think the city and the residents and everyone would be best served if we can get a comprehensive plan put together, drafted, get the studies that are required, and then with the new city manager on board, have that individual, he, she, whoever, come back and make the presentation on what that should be, as opposed to us picking individual streets at this point. Councilmember Spicer.
I disagree. I reiterate what I said. When we look at streets, we could have our director of street department come in, take a look. We've done this since I've been on the council, and I don't think the process is broken. So I don't think we need to fix it at this point. If we get down the road and we decide we want to go a different route, I'd like to see what I just stated as a short-term goal.
Okay. I would, with all due respect, argue that the process is broken. If we go out and look at the streets and the infrastructure in the city, it's bad everywhere. You know, in general, it's not good. And so the process, with all due respect, and I just disagree with you that it is in fact broken. And if we keep having council members, elected officials that don't have the expertise, picking and choosing streets, that's why we need a comprehensive plan. Councilmember Brown.
That's going to require a vote.
Thank you. So I have to say, I've been on council over 2 years, and I don't know what the process is for choosing streets. I'll just be honest. I think that there's some random priority given, and I'm not quite sure what that is. So I think it's important for us to assess the roads and like really take a look at which areas are the most in need. Now, I know that's long-term, and that's going to take way longer than what we have, because our roads are ridiculously messed up. So I talked to interim manager Kip. I made a suggestion about a possible short-term fix, and I know he's looking into that, and that could be a fairly quick, possibly a quick solution for some of the major potholes that we have. But long-term, I think we need to assess our streets, and like I said, I don't know how, it seems very random how we choose which streets get to be repaired. And I think we need a clear-cut process, a fair process, and one that everybody understands. So that's my position. Thank you.
Councilmember Reed.
I agree with what she's saying, but I think it needs to be by somebody who knows how to assess streets. I've been riding all over looking at streets, and I've seen streets that are nothing but ground up dirt. But then you go on the other side of town and you see the same thing, streets that have just ground up dirt. And so Mr. Phillips is probably the best one to really assess what has to be done, especially now that we have to go down under the street and and put in piping and stuff like that. So I would suggest something like that, not just the side.
Councilmember Lawler. Well,
Thank you.
she hasn't had a chance to speak yet.
I'm smiling, I'm not frowning.
Okay.
The demolish of the Union Steel building, maybe we could see what options the city would partake in that, if we could have a conversation, put it on a short-term goal to have a conversation with Ms. Krista to see what we can do as our part.
Okay.
Just for a point of information, Councilmember Tintu add something to the agenda, and I think we owe it to her to at least get through that discussion and vote, and just give the common courtesy to do that before we move on to the next item. I'm really excited about that. So,
Okay.
if we could just,
That's fine.
I just want to remind council.
Okay, so if you would restate your motion.
My motion is that for budgetary, well, when the council is discussing street repair, that we, with, on the advice and direction of our street department, directors and experts, that we consider looking at East Broadwell as available for the next budget cycle for the street fund, because I believe we've already covered the 2020 street budget, so as soon as possible, that East and West Broadwell be considered for repair, street repair. That is my motion.
So I have a clear,
To me, that is my priority, short-term priority, sorry.
But we were going to pick 4. We're now up to 5. I mean, there is really nothing on the list that we identified on the 26th of April, I believe was the date, that was outlandish or not supportable. My strongest recommendation is we kind of stick to the plan, which is we pick 4 short-term, 4 long-term, and do it that way. But it's the consent. Yes, Councilmember Brown.
thank you. So I wanted to be clear, you're not asking for a commitment to repair those streets. You're asking for council to consider repairing those streets.
Absolutely.
Which, I mean, I don't have a problem with, but I think we should be considering all of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
because there's other areas, oh, I'm sorry, because just like Councilmember Reed has said, I've recently rolled around the city just to check out the roads and things, because for the signs, you know, we were supposed to be doing that, well, I decided to ride the city. Also in District 5, I think it is. Yes, the roads are just as bad as they are in my precinct and in Sonia's precinct and in Marcola's precinct. And I understand that Broadwell is bad too, but if you ride around, you'll see that it's a long-term goal for the whole city. Because especially out by the river, I was noticing that there was very large potholes in the road when we were riding around, and so it's a long-term goal. It's a long-term goal because we don't. It's a long-term goal.
And I mean, like you said, you can go to any precinct and you can find really bad streets.
Really bad streets.
And we need a comprehensive plan so we know what it's going to cost, when they're going to get done, prioritizing. And I understand council giving guidance as to where we think the priorities should be.
Yes.
And then have the experts come back with a plan that the council can vote on.
Point of parliamentary procedure, there a motion. We should listen and hear if there's a second before we consider any more debate on the issue.
All right, I agree. Clarify again, my motion is, my suggestion for prioritizing city focus is that when we are considering street repair, that West Broadwell and East Broadwell and West Broadwell be looked at. If any other council want to put some streets that they've written down and have suggestions, they're welcome to do that as well. I'm sure everybody in here can get up and speak to a street that's in dire need of repair. I'm bringing that forward as a priority, and let's vote on it and move on.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Okay. Would you like a roll call vote for count?
Yeah.
Okay. Do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Clark,
No.
Reed, Brown,
No.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Williamson,
No.
and Mayor Atchison.
No. Okay. Is there another motion for another long-term goal, another long-term priority?
Continual city cleanup and code enforcement.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay.
So 4 and 4.
Would you please read the short-term goals that you, and then the long-term? I think we're maxed out here.
Hire city manager, rental certification, establish more active recreation program, and a second grocery store. That's what I have for short term.
And Councilmember Brown's Workforce Development Ad Hoc Committee.
You're adding that to short term, okay.
Okay. And the long-term goals that you have?
Second grocery store, senior,
Yeah, the second grocery store is on the short-term.
that's on the short term too. Senior affordable housing development, code enforcement, and city cleanup.
So that's 3 long-term goals, right?
You,
Okay. And how many
No,
short-term
what
goals?
about, construction?
Okay.
That's number 1.
oh, infrastructure, I had is number 1.
Yeah, number 1. Okay. So that fills out the number that we agreed to plus. Any other comments? Any other recommendations before we move on?
I have a comment.
Councilmember Clark.
So when I was looking, I'm a colored person, and I like to group things together. So when I was looking at our total sheet, a lot of the things that we're mentioning as long-term and short-term goals actually can fit in the same category. Because there was different ways of mentioning employment and improving the employment, and then there was different ways of mentioning the housing and bringing in economic development, which would be if we increase those type of things, that would bring in more income, more revenue if people are moving into this area. So I think when we move forward with our long and short term goals, we also need to keep in mind some of these areas can fall under the same guidelines, and we can walk them through and build on those, although they're not named, but because our list was 26, but
Right.
some of them are the same.
Okay.
Fall in the same categories.
Brown.
Thank you. I think it's also important for us to keep in mind that we want to go back and kind of flesh these out, because we want to be able to put some kind of measure in place so that we know if we've achieved that goal or not. So maybe that's something we need to do at a future meeting.
I agree. Okay, next item is the discussion and approval of the executive search firm for the city manager. Okay, so the requirement when we do this is to award it to the lowest responsible bidder, beyond cost, other things such as resources and prior experience with the individual companies and things that need to be taken into consideration there. So there is a matrix chart that was provided that provides the not-to-exceed costs for each of the 4 proposals that we received. The lowest cost of those was the Michigan Municipal League. So we should start at the lowest and work our way up. So if we can have a motion, then we can have a discussion on that. And if anybody has reason to believe that they're not reliable on the basis of something, they can make that case. So, may I have a motion to select Michigan Municipal League? Second?
Support.
Okay. Discussion. Brown.
Thank you. Is there a way that we can, choose from a list of consultants that they have to offer? Or is it just one consultant that we have to utilize that's assigned to this area?
My belief, I don't know specifically. I haven't had any experience with MML. So I couldn't say definitively. I'm assuming that they went through and selected the individual based on their resources and other things, and that's what they thought was the best match. But I'm sure that if we found that person lacking or there was a need to have somebody else, we'd have a discussion with MML and say, who else can you assign, and have a discussion on that.
And then I have just one more point. I want to be clear about the standards that we're going to set as a council. If we want a certain standard as far as a credit check or a criminal background check, then we need to be very clear about that upfront with whoever we choose.
And I think you took pains, City Attorney Hartness, to clarify that in the proposal, the request for proposals that went out, to make that very explicitly clear.
I think in the previous contract, it was, I don't necessarily want to say it was discretionary, but we made some modifications so that that information shall be provided.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
So we made modifications to the proposed contract that went out with the RFQ that, for example, the credit check must be provided to council as part of the review process so that we will be able to see what's been, basically we'll be able to review the check ourselves.
I understand that, but what standard are we gonna set? Are we going to do that? Are we gonna just look at, I mean, how do we do this and make sure it's fair across the board? Like, if we have a standard that we say we want a 700 credit score, then that's what we set. Or, if we don't want any misdemeanors or anything within the last 2 years, and that's what I think it's better to be very, very specific. Hindsight is 20/20, and we just went through a teachable moment. So what I'm trying to avoid is us expecting a standard that we don't set in the beginning.
City Attorney
So what I
Hartness.
can offer at council, I mean, one thing I would say is you definitely don't want to judge a credit, somebody's credit by their score, because a score can fluctuate for about a million different reasons. What you want to be more concerned about in the context of employment is looking for bankruptcies, accounts that are delinquent, lots of open accounts with bad payment histories, things like that, or an abundance of open accounts. Obviously a red flag would be somebody that has 50 open revolving credit accounts. Things like that are what you want to look for. I mean, somebody could have a 750 credit score on Monday, and the next week maybe they take out a home loan but are current on it, and they go down to a 650. And it just depends. So I wouldn't use the score. I would use the other things, and then the criminal history. I mean, I don't know that they should have any, but that's a decision.
Well, I would. Hypothetical.
So I would say, as you stated, we want to be fair and consistent. So defining that would go to whoever ends up being selected for this. And if the appropriate thing is to define that in writing, we certainly could do that and provide it to the people that we're going to deal with. But the same requirement is going to hold for whoever gets selected to do the search.
That's what I just want to be sure we're consistent and that we go into this knowing what the standards are that we're setting as a council. So, thank you.
Okay. There's no further discussion. We're going to vote on selecting MML as the search firm. Since this is a contract, please read the roll.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes?
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. That's fine. Okay. Next item is the discussion, the fireworks ordinance. City Attorney Harkins, please.
Okay, so, many of you weren't on council at the time, but, back in 2011, the Michigan legislature enacted the Michigan Fireworks Safety Act, and that made several changes to how fireworks are regulated in Michigan. So the Michigan legislature, well, let me back up. One of the things that they did in that act is they basically localized some of the control that municipalities have over fireworks. For example, they basically said that municipalities could regulate what's known as consumer fireworks, which are most of the fireworks that you see people shooting off on 4th of July, New Year's, things like that. And they could enact an ordinance that basically said, okay, you can prohibit their use and limit it except for the day before, the day of, and the day after a certain certain series of holidays. And they listed about 10 of them. Well, the Michigan legislature last year, in a series of public acts, made some more modifications to that statute. They've given the municipalities a little bit more control. They've scaled back the specific days that are basically that fireworks are allowed no matter what. Those days are the New Year's Eve and the early hours of New Year's Day, the weekend right before Memorial Day, 4th of July and the days leading up to that, and Labor Day. And so they've scaled it back from about 10 holidays or so to about 5. They've also beefed up the fines on these. They in our last ordinance, for example, it was a civil fine of not more than $500. The legislature has now said that when a municipality does an ordinance, the municipality shall impose a civil fine of $1,000 for each violation. And of that fine, 500 of it is to be remitted to local law enforcement for enforcement. I think I can probably count on one hand the number of tickets that we actually did for these, just because, unless, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, the difficulty is actually catching someone in the act, because by the time law enforcement gets there, the fireworks are no longer going off and the people aren't there. But nevertheless, we've got a new state law that our ordinance doesn't mesh with anymore, and so I wanted to bring that to council's attention. I'll prepare a modified ordinance for probably your next council meeting, but I thought we should probably work on this before we get into the holidays where fireworks could potentially be coming. Can I answer any questions?
So you're gonna bring, I apologize.
No.
You're gonna bring something for us to look at?
Yeah, I'll bring the amendment to the ordinance to the next regular meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item is approval boards and commission appointment. Mr. Robert Dunklin, initial appointment for Local Officers Compensation Commission, term to expire October 1st, 2021. May I have a motion?
Support.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. And I note you're here tonight, Mr. Dunklin. Thank you. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Mr. Dunklin, and thank you for agreeing to serve. Okay. Request approval of resolution number 2019-18, a resolution to approve the proposal for heavy equipment, noxious vegetation abatement, and mowing bid, and to approve the contract for heavy equipment, noxious vegetation abatement, and mowing with John J. Hawkins Construction Contractor. May I have a motion to approve resolution 2019-18?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Tracy, if you would enlighten us, please.
John Tracy, Director of Planning, Building, and Code Enforcement. Each year, we contract out with typically two different contractors, one for heavy abatement, which includes brush and using a brush hog in some instances, plus a front loader. And then we also contract with what we call the smaller light equipment, basically like your little. Last couple of years, we've been skipping by trying to work with contractors because a lot of contractors do not like to do this type of work anymore. And what I mean by this type of work is you're abating properties that are private properties of individuals. There's sometimes you have a little bit of flack from individuals that don't want you on their property, and you're dealing with property typically that is quite overgrown. Once you get grass up to 8 inches, then you give notice on it, you still have to wait 7 days, so you can figure it's going to be up to 12 or 14 or 16 inches sometimes before a contractor can get out there. So this year, unfortunately, we only received one bid, as we did last year. We put it out for bid, both in the Recorder, the Salesman, and another paper. Had a few calls in on wanting to know about it, but we, as I was just saying, we only have the one contractor for the heavy portion of it. We had another contractor that did the light portion of it for us a number of years, and he finally got to the point where he's no longer wanting to get beat up on the equipment riding it around. So Mr. Hawkins has been doing heavy equipment work for us for probably the last 11, 12 years. As you can see on the sheet down there, I put down what his bid was and what he had last year received a bid for. It's gone up by 75 cents per hour for the walking the site, moving and hauling brush, and then on the other overall, it went up by $1.50 on his 2-hour minimum that he comes out on. So, as I said, this is the only contractor that we received a bid from at all this year, and he has done good work for us in the past, and it's my recommendation.
Any questions from council? Thank you, Mr. Tracy. Further discussion?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay, it's approved. Okay. Next item, request approval of resolution 2019-19 to recognize Walk the Beat as a nonprofit organization to obtain gaming license from the state of Michigan. You want to address that in any way? Just
So I can tell you, this was actually something that came up while I was out of town, but my understanding is that Walk the Beat is seeking to do some charitable gaming. The state statute on that allows for nonprofit organizations to qualify as a nonprofit for purposes of a gaming license with approval by resolution from a local municipality. So that's what you have before you, basically, to recognize Walk the Beat as a nonprofit organization for the limited purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license from the state.
so So the background on this, I believe this is the 4th year for Walk the Beat. This is the first year, the first 3 years they were sponsored by another organization which got the gaming license, and the charitable gaming is basically a raffle for those that have been here for Walk the Beat and gone around and listened to the bands at each location. You get tickets, you put it in, and then they draw raffle prizes for each of that. And so in order to continue doing that, it's a good fundraiser. It helps pay for the bands and whatnot. They need to get this gaming license. So that's the background on it. If there's any further discussion, if not, okay, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. Next item is request approval of a waiver for the first right of refusal on the Calhoun County foreclosed property. And we have a list of the properties that were provided, and Mr. Tracy handed out a separate sheet that shows a short description of those. So if I can have a motion to approve the waiver of the first right of refusal.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Is there any discussion? Or if anyone has a question on a specific property for Mr. Tracy? Seeing no questions? Okay, would you please read the roll?
Councilmember Williamson,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. Future agenda items.
Fireworks order.
Okay. Brown.
The Housing Commission Liaison Resolution, it was brought before council before I went off on my illness, and I want to bring that back. Also, if we can get a update from the EDC director regarding the efforts in recruiting a grocery store. And an update on the zoning. Where are we with zoning? That's all I have for now.
Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you. The rental certification?
Okay. Councilmember Clark.
And, Officer,
I'm sorry?
I wanted to ask Officer Kip first. Did you speak with her? She's,
I haven't confirmed that yet, but we'll work on that for next meeting.
yeah, okay.
What is that?
So that was for,
The director of the
So-
talking, right, presenting to council.
yes, for the YMCA.
I didn't want to put it out there because I don't know what's going to happen, but
Okay. And I would like to have, if Mr. Phillips or you, give us kind of an overview update of where you think we're going with the sidewalks, plan for that, also for the street sweeper, and then hopefully you'll be ready to put it on next meeting to vote on contracting to have the street master plan updated with engineering services. And I would ask him to, I'll give you the contact information if he doesn't have it, but the PACER ratings, MDOT will do that for free. Okay. Sidewalks, contractor for the update the street master plan, and status of the street sweeper. Okay. All right. City manager, I apologize, public comments.
I had another
Oh.
agenda item. I'd like an update on the timeline for MML's work, since we've voted to approve them as a search firm. It'd be nice to now have what the timeline's gonna look like for the manager search.
Okay.
It's either someone from MML or something from MML that says how this is gonna start.
Okay. Any further? Okay. Public comments.
Good evening. My name is Mayola Dunklin, and I live at 707 Huntington Boulevard, Albion, Michigan. and I'm in the 5th precinct. I just want to stand here tonight to just bring this to the attention of the council. I think it would behoove you to get a comprehensive plan, because to hear streets being named out, other people feel that they're being overlooked. And so I think it would be best just to get a comprehensive plan, have someone come in, excuse me, I have a cold, have someone come in that understand what has to be done, but not name the streets, because every street in Albion needs to be repaired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Garrett Brown, 1016 South Superior. Just a couple of things. General, the grocery store, that there was some discussion about that. I think what happened, and I think it's a good idea to have Amy come in from the EDC, because there was some tension regarding where that could be placed. Obviously, when you have someone like an Aldi, they have site requirements, but we have a multi-million-dollar Courtyard Marriott downtown in Albion, and so someone made that happen. So it's really an issue about will and effort and putting the effort into doing that. So I commend the council for including that. I've said it at other council meetings. I'm glad that the council is moving forward with getting the new manager, but I think it's really important that it's on the record, the public knows that we wasted a free search, several tens of thousands of dollars. So I think that's not an efficient use of tax dollars. Also, I guess finally, the big thing is, and I know a lot of people, and I don't even know what to say because I'm kind of speechless about it, actually having seen it, I think the council is going to have to do some soul searching. That should not have happened, and there needs to be several things that happen, but I hope, and I'll be reaching out to council members individually, all of you, there needs to be some action taken on that, because that should not have happened. It reflects poorly on our community. That young man didn't deserve that, and I know that there's going to be attention, and the council is going to be held accountable if there's not action taken relative to that. So I'll be speaking with you all, but I mean, I'm heartbroken, and I know lots of people in the community are furious about that. So please be aware of that.
Are there any other public comments this evening? Council member, I'm sorry. County Commissioner Tompkins.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. Mr. Mayor, council members, Interim City Manager Kip, Clerk Domingo, residents of the City of Albion, and the folks watching this evening. Good evening. I'm Gary Tompkins, your County Commissioner. It's always great to be with you folks each and every month. I got a number of things to cover, so bear with me this evening. So lots of good stuff. By the way, too, did you guys get an opportunity to meet Helen Guzzo, who's our senior offices manager that came here, I believe, did a presentation on the annual report? She does a lot of great work, certainly in the office, and she's really committed to making sure seniors get services as well. So we're certainly glad to have her on board with us for the past 2 years. First of all, I'll start out this evening with a couple of actions that took place at the county board level. First and foremost, we approved the resolution to levy Calhoun County winter and summer taxes for 2019. A total of 6.47113 mills, which covers our general operating expenses, which is at 5.3779, which is what you'll see on your summer taxes. The senior millage, which Helen Guzzo talked about this evening, 0.7452 of the millage at your winter taxes. We have a 0.10 veterans millage, which you'll see on your winter taxes, and your medical care at 2.482 mills, which is also on your winter taxes. Now, I would note that the general operation, which is the 5.3779 mills that the county uses as general operating, has not changed in many, many years. So we've worked really hard to keep that number in place without any kind of increases. So that's a good news for certainly everybody. In addition to that, with respect to the senior millage particularly, we approved supplemental funding requests from the senior millage in the amount of $292,500 for minor home repair, which is administered by Community Action, which will allow for the assistance of 78 additional households clearing the waiting list and also for new referrals. Now, it's a great thing because, as we know, there was quite a waiting list. What minor home repair was for low-income seniors that maybe need anywhere repairs from $3,000 to $3,500 and get assistance on that minor home repair that they have. And at that time, Community Action came to us and said, we've got a waiting list of many, many people, and we've got to find a way to eliminate that waiting list and get people the services that they need. So we, as a senior millage committee, made that option to go ahead and make sure that those seniors were going to be taken care of. And it was well worth the investment to make sure that they do have what they need. So good news, certainly from the senior millage. All right, my monthly newsletter. Most of you folks do get it by every month, right hot off the electronic presses. If you're not on the email list and you'd like to be included, you can go to the bottom of my email and certainly go to the bottom of the newsletter and get signed up. Hard copies are available at the Albion District Library as well. It's a great resource to know what's going on in and around the 7th District as well as the City of Albion. In this month's newsletter, lots of great information in this month's newsletter. 7 pages this month, as a matter of fact. There's a lot of stuff that happened this past month and a lot of great stuff. First and foremost, pages 4 through 6 provides a detailed breakdown of our 2019 equalization report. Page 4 details market value per parcel. So basically what the market value per parcel is on each parcel as it relates to, for instance, the City of Albion. And actually, Albion saw a 13.16% increase in its market value per parcel, which is 3rd highest in Calhoun County for 2019. So certainly a very good positive thing for the City of Albion. And over a 3-year period, you'll notice that on page 4, I do trend lines so you can see kind of where Albion has been and where they're going. And over that 3-year period, you've seen about a 20.88% increase in market value per parcel. So again, a lot of good things happening as it relates to that. On page 5, we talk about real and personal property taxable values. Albion saw almost a 6%, 5.91% increase in property values. And over that 3-year period, a 15.11% increase in property values, which is very good when you talk about your millages relative to roads, to recreation and those things. That's where your revenue is generated from. So good information there. And then on page 6, we provide a detail of real property taxable values by area, agricultural, commercial, industrial, and residential. So as a City of Albion, you can actually see where your real property is in terms of, as you know, in City of Albion, you don't have any agricultural dollars, but you have a fair amount of commercial, a fair number of industrial, but of course residential is still your main property taxable values as it relates to that. So lots of good information. And even though page 7 doesn't necessarily result, but we all know we talked about roads tonight, right? Well, I can say on page 7, the county detailed our primary paving and chip sealing for 2019 for the 7th District. And including that, the 7th District has the most projects as a percentage of the total in county at 40.7%. So it does, the squeaky wheel does tend to get the grease, as they say sometimes. So I will certainly continue to advocate. And as we relate to roads, one of the things that you folks, even though I have a limited involvement certainly with city in terms of how you folks have your specific funding, just please know that I'm advocating on your behalf at the state level to make sure that Albion gets the money it truly deserves to address the city streets that you have. We know that the amount of funding that you currently get is not sufficient to be able to take care of what you need. So I will continue to advocate with everybody, our representatives, our senator, everybody that will certainly listen to me, and I'll take it to go to Lansing to make sure that you folks, I will advocate on your behalf. So just something I want to point out. Even though we got roads that will be coming into the City of Albion, 25.5-mile road, which will be coming in by Finley Drive, which is the city limit, that's all going to be redone as it rolls right into Irwin Avenue this year. So it's a really good continuation of things to come. So again, one of the things I always say is all roads, can lead to Albion, and that's a positive thing. You want to make sure, even though you have issues with roads in the City of Albion, you want people to be able to drive in on nice roads so that they come in the City of Albion and do what they need to do here and shop and tourism and everything else. So good things for the City of Albion. And then interesting enough, real quickly, I wanted to point out something. Received this today via a news release from Calhoun County Health Department. And just bear with me as I'm going to read this, as I haven't been able to get myself versed on this yet. But with the ground thawed and spring growth filling out across Southwest Michigan, the Calhoun County Health Department is asking for communities' help in tick-related research efforts. Bear with me on this. That's kind of interesting. Knowing which tick species are most prevalent in the area lets health officials know which tick-borne illnesses Calhoun County citizens are most at risk for contracting. For this reason, the Calhoun County Health Department's Environmental Health Division is invested in collecting information about the county's tick population and invites the public to participate. County residents who would like to help in the effort by collecting and submitting ticks are welcome to stop by the Environmental Health Front Desk in Battle Creek to receive their free tick collection kit. Kits include the necessary materials for collecting and submitting live ticks to the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Interesting enough. I mean, I don't know most of us that are collecting live ticks, but you know what, though? It could be a valuable resource for those of us to, we can learn about things that are going on, maybe these diseases like Lyme disease and other things that ticks have. So just something for you folks to take a look at that. If you're interested in becoming a live tick kit person, and we'll go to the Calhoun County Health Department in Battle Creek and pick up a test kit. And then finally, as you folks know, I've rolled out my survey over the last several month and a half. I've had some really good responses from people, not only in the city of Albion, but throughout the 7th District, and I certainly appreciate that. If you've not had the opportunity to take advantage to fill out that anonymous survey, I would certainly appreciate your help. It's really the way that I get to know exactly what your opinions are on a lot of things, what your priorities are, and it really truly gives you an opportunity to have a voice and also allows me to advocate on your behalf. So again, if you're interested in doing that, I have them here tonight. It's about 13 questions, takes you about 6 minutes, and it's totally anonymous. Nobody knows. I don't know what it is, but I can tell you the results have been really, really positive this far, and I really do appreciate everybody that's been able to fill those out for me. So again, lots of great stuff going on, positive stuff, positive news, and we'll continue as we've got a lot of broader progress to make. So again, know that I'm certainly advocating on you folks' behalf. So unless there's any questions for me, it's great to be with you folks each and every month. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. City Manager's report.
There will be a public meeting on May 15th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Ludington Center. For the Michigan Department of Transportation is hosting the meeting to discuss the reconstruction of Austin Avenue in 2020. Part of that construction is calling for a road diet, and they want to present that to the community. Road diet generally means the narrowing of the road from 4 to 3 lanes, which means there'd be a center turn lane and 2 drive lanes. Same as they did downtown when they redid Superior Street. This meeting is being held to give the community the opportunity to weigh in on that discussion. On May 15th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., there will be a job fair at the Marshall Opportunity School hosted by the Michigan Works, the Albion EDC, the AmeriCorps Vistas, and the Marshall Opportunity School. The city, as the mayor asked about sidewalks already, and I had in here, is continuing to work on the sidewalk plan for this year. With the S-Squared project, identifying areas that need repair. Additionally, we are working on an RFP to put out to contractors so that we can get those going quickly and bring that to council. And you asked about the street sweeping. We have actually found another company now that we could lease a street sweeper for a week for less than $5,000. So there's another possibility of getting those streets done, something that we're looking into currently. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Reed.
Talk to Kip. The meeting was about Austin.
May 15th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Ludington Center.
Thank you. Okay. Council members' comments. Council.
I just have a question for Chief. The sweeper, someone was out sweeping last week. Is that?
Our sweeper is working when we can keep it running. So yes, it's out there.
It passed down my street. And I
Yep.
thought, I want to go, yeah.
Right.
So,
But if we were able to lease this for a week, we could probably get all those streets done in that week, and probably at a less cost than what it's costing us to run the current sweeper. Yep.
Councilmember comments? Councilmember Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to address put on the agenda about our leaves. What are we going to do about them? And since we can't take them to the city dump anymore, it's becoming a problem in the wintertime when we do our streets. They flip over and we still see them, so we definitely have to do something about it. My second thing is being on council, the main thing that made me run for council was to provide something for the well-being of others. That is something that's dear to my heart, and I try to do my best with it. But I'd like to say that today my heart is very heavy. This is the first time in my life that I have seen Albion go through something that was so disturbing on the news, on social media. The thing that was really disturbing to me about the young man was that he was saying that he hadn't eaten dinner, and that he began to plead about if he could just go home, he would do anything. He would watch cars, whatever it took. And the most important thing to me was that he mentioned that he had to go to church the next day. This is unacceptable in Albion. We don't do things like this. I just want the council to put themselves in a mother's perspective, if that was our child, or even a father's perspective, if that was their child. What would you do? I think the council needs answers, because I'm having phone calls about the incident, and to better serve my constituents, I need answers. And this child will probably never forget this horrible day in his life. And so with that being said, I'd like to call privilege.
Further comments by council members? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So, I have to say, first of all, I want to wish Mr. Robert Holt, affectionately known as Bob. He's a Precinct 3 resident. Last Tuesday, he celebrated his 101st birthday. So happy birthday, Mr. Holt. I can't sit here tonight and act like I haven't seen the news story out of Detroit, and act like I haven't heard the questions and concerns of residents of this community regarding the videotape that's been released involving a minor child and 2 Albion officers who were present that day. You know, I was hoping that the city would be proactive and address the community in some way. We've been here over an hour and a half, and I think that even we could have gotten 5 votes to change the agenda, so somebody at the beginning of the meeting, and I would have loved to do it, had said, we know what's going on, we're aware of it, and we will look into it. Just some kind of reassurance. So I'm as a council member, and I'm a part of you all, and we are a family, but I'm disappointed in our lack of response. I also have to say, I'm a mother, and I think about my son a lot, and that's a whole nother issue that I won't get into right now. But so let me just get into some of the concerns. I read the statement that was issued on the website by the Albion Department of Public Safety. I'm not sure who drafted this. It's dated on May 1st. Today is May 6th. Council was never notified that this statement was drafted and released, and I'm disappointed by that. I think we should have at least been made aware that somebody had requested some kind of statement. I read it over, and it mentions the use of force policy and the force report form, which is great. But this is where it's dangerous sometimes not to make council aware or provide council with information because you get it from the community and you have nothing to counter it with. So in this statement, it talks about a patrol lieutenant who looked at the form and watched the video footage of the officer's body camera. Again, there were 2 officers. So each officer should have had a body cam. Therefore, there should have been 2 videos. So I'm not sure which camera footage was reviewed by the patrol lieutenant during this reporting and quote-unquote investigation of the incident. But what I can tell you what I did learn and confirm today. Only 1 videotape was released to the investigating agency, and it ended up at the prosecuting attorney's office. He had 1 video, and there should be 2. And unless there's a policy that says that, you know, the Department of Public Safety has discretion in what evidence they turn over to an investigating agency, then we have a problem. Because
I can tell you right now that is not true. I turned over 4 videos to the state police.
Okay, how many ended up in the prosecutor's office is what I'm trying to figure out.
That's up to the state police. I had nothing to do with that investigation at that point.
Okay, well, what I can tell you to know, what I know as fact, is there was 1 video in the prosecuting attorney's office. And so if what I'm hearing from Chief Kip is actually factual, then there's a problem. And we need to look into it. You know, I read this statement and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I can't support this unless I know this is fact. I'm not going to support somebody or some statement that I don't even know who drafted on behalf of the Albion Department of Public Safety. And you can look upset if you want, but this is where I'm at. I am for doing the right thing, and I don't care who it is. But I am not going to support a statement or some facts that I don't know to be true. And what I am learning is if you don't ask questions and take things on face value, you'll be fooled 90% of the time. So what I am going to say is, Albion community, we hear your concerns. I hear your concerns. I am just as disturbed as the people who reached out to me last night through today. And we are better than this. I born and raised in this community. We are much better than this. So we need to roll up our sleeves, have some tough conversations if that's what it takes. But we need to, number 1, address it. Number 2, make sure it never happens again. If it does happen, we need to have some policies in place that are very specific so we as council know what to expect. Because again, we weren't given heads up that this was coming out. But somebody knew because there was a statement released. So, phew. And I can also say this too, that I learned. So the video that was at the prosecutor's office was actually the body cam video of the officer who was not seen punching the minor child, okay? I learned that there was a FOIA request submitted to the Albion Police Department for a copy of the officer's video who was seen punching the minor child, and the price tag on that was close to $200. I don't know if that's even normal or whatever, but I just want to put it out there. So there's the tape is here and it exists, but there's like almost a $200 price tag on it. So I'm putting that out there as well. So I just hope moving forward, council, we make sure that we know and we're comfortable that things were handled per policy and within policy, and let's heal our community and let's do what we need to do. Thank you.
Councilmember Williamson.
Good evening.
Couple of things I want to say. I'm not a council member to stoke suspicions of the police department.
Let him speak, please.
Point of order all you want to, it's still fact.
I also want to provide, I would like to remind the council that I was quite polite and listened to everyone's statements tonight, and I would expect that my fellow council member would do that as well. I would like to give Chief Kip the opportunity to explain the price tag on the video, because I had a question about that as well that I had reached out to you to answer. Could you just confirm like why the expense is related to the video? Because there's a pricing formula that's done, correct?
The price for the video is the cost it takes to put the video together, basically. The video had to be completely redacted to remove the juvenile's face and any mention of the juvenile's name out of it, which took almost a week to get done. We had to get an extension on it, so that's the cost. If the council chose to waive that cost, the council could choose to do that to release the video.
The other thing I'd like to clarify about that is I did some homework today. The video footage released by the Detroit News Channel was not the video related to Albion's release, and in fact was a separate video obtained through the court system. So that is why the minor's name and other things were mentioned during the altercation on the video. So I'd like to point out that Albion Public Safety followed all policy, internal procedure in making sure that they took care of identity,
please,
identity and respect for the family and people involved in that video. The other thing, since coming on council, this was a brand new situation for me. It seemed as though as soon as I got on council, we received an email that said an officer had been placed on administrative duty. A few months later, an officer had been relieved of that duty. I'd also like to point out that this incident was self-reported. This wasn't a familiar complaint. So this wasn't that a citizen brought this forward. This was that the police, because of their own policies at Albion Public Safety, reported this themselves. This was internal policing and review done by our public safety officers to make sure that if an incident like this ever occurred, which we can't think of many times that this has happened, that we would report it and hold ourselves accountable. I'd like to point out that the officer in question has been relieved of duty as of like March or something after a hearing following the proper procedure that all officers must go through when accused of situations like this. So that officer is no longer an officer and also no longer a danger to the public. And then I would also like to point out that I am sickened by the video that was taken. I do not watch things like this. I felt a responsibility to watch it, just like everyone else probably has in the community, because I knew there were going to be questions about it. The actions of the officer in question, by all accounts, were incredibly irresponsible, dangerous, reckless, despicable, and disgusting. And he should be held accountable. I would like to point out that we, as far as an internal investigation are concerned and a criminal investigation done by the Michigan State Police, had referred the case to the prosecuting attorney, the only person in the county able to make an accusation and charge that through the court system. We all can say that that decision probably wasn't the best decision because it resulted in 0 charges for the officer. But that was not a decision that the city of Albion or that the Albion Public Safety made. That was a decision that the prosecuting attorney made. And I think if you read tonight's version of the Detroit, WDIV Connect Detroit's article, you will notice that it heavily focuses on the fact that these things made it somewhere and then didn't go any further, and that was to the prosecuting attorney's office. I also want to reiterate my respect and appreciation for Albion Public Safety, as I know that the last 24 hours have been a complete whirlwind for a police force that has gone out of its way in this community to do something called community policing. They have been in every neighborhood. They show up every time there's a warm weekend with water. They try to make sure they're talking to kids. I remember people who are on the force now as a kid being in my school talking about, I'm not here to hurt you, I'm here to help. And that is something that happened in every school in Albion for as long as I can remember and as many of you can remember. And people can detract from that. I'm going to stand firm and support the Albion Public Safety until given reason not to. This very unfortunate and tragic incident does not waive my respect for the public safety officers in Michigan or in Albion, especially for Chief Kip and especially for those who are on the beat now who are making sure that we're safe. This incident was terrible. There needs to be accountability for the people involved in that situation, and I think that accountability needs to be in the right place. And I think any
any effort to disparage the good men and women of law enforcement in Albion at the moment who are not involved in this situation is a mistake. With that, I yield.
Other council members have comments? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you. So I just want to say, and I'm not going back and forth, we can respectfully agree to disagree, that's fine. I know when I was here on March 1st, you made some very accusatory remarks to me, and you know, sometimes you get in the heat of the moment. It's fine. Anyway, I will say this, it is not my position to disparage the Albion Department of Public Safety. It is my hope to get to the truth and the bottom of what really happened and how it was handled. And if it could have been handled better, then let's implement policies to make sure that it will be better if it ever happened again, which I seriously hope it doesn't. I will say this too, and then I'm going to close. I know that in the news report said this, the only person charged was the minor, and I know it takes police incident reports to be submitted in order for charges to be brought. And I also don't see how two officers on the same scene could have conflicting incident reports and all those charges be assessed to that young man. So we need to be looking at the process and make sure that things were done fairly and within policy. Thank you.
Okay, it is a very disturbing incident that took place. Okay, I think you summed up the fact that the officer is no longer a member of the force. I know that Chief Kip, I believe you were looking at internal policies and making sure that everything was followed and where we can improve those policies. That's underway. Okay. So. Okay.